All right, so to continue the CSS Crash Course, we've got this pasta cart restaurant as a really simple design here, and let's give this a shot. And so in the CSS section here in CodePen, we're able to at least fork off. You can take this entire project and fork it onto your own account and then make the edits from here. So let's give this a run. Hopefully you'll stop here, give it a try, and see how close you get to what I ended up with. So at least to look at the markup here, we've got a header, and so we might have a global, and then a, did it again, a header. What else is next? Locations, kind of sections off on its own, and I think I've pulled in a footer. Yeah, so footer. And let's see how this rolls out. So the first thing I think we can do to match up this design is squeeze everything in. It looks like there's a little bit of margin on the left and right. And I say margin, I think we can pull in some padding, and that gives white space. That's really what we want. We don't want to separate the elements from each other, but we want to add space, a little bit of white space. So we'll just add padding in this example. So padding for the body tag. Let's see, we might do something like, just looking at the design, so padding, maybe like 12%. That looks about, yeah, okay, that'll work. We'll just try that. And then I think the next thing we could do, now that we've got everything sized in, let's go ahead and pull in the image. Looks like it needs to be smaller and to the left of the text, so let's give that a shot. That's going to be here in locations, and that's inside of store. So if we do store img, and the first thing you're seeing here is I'm referencing the image inside of store. I can mention these completely separately. I could do a comma and say I want to add a style to store and image, but in this case I want to reference and be specific, that narrow down. I don't want just all of the images on the page. I want to be very specific and say I want the image inside of the store class. And so we've got a few of those. We've got class store again with an image and the h2, the p tag, store all the way down. So this is going to just really help keeping things narrow. So if you add more images, those aren't going to get the same style too. So I'm trying to be specific in this case. Looks like it needs to be to the left, and one way we could do that is, let's give it a width of 25%. Yeah, that sized it down. Now you need to get the text to the right of it, and what we can do that is float everything left. So left. Wow, everything went crazy, and they're all stacked on top of each other. So now what we need to do is take everything and kind of make it into its own row, and we can do that with the store element itself, I think. So maybe if we gave store float none. Okay, so I think the display on a div, because this class is on a div, is block, and so we might need to switch it to inline block. So let's do display inline block. There, now it's on its own line. That works out fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a little space in between. We can do that with some, let's do some margin, and okay, new element of styles here is being able to reference multiple locations at once. And so with margin and padding, you can mention the top, the right, the bottom, and the left by basically putting all of them right beside each other. So you've got 0, which is top, 0 padding or 0 margin here to the right, bottom, and then to the left. And so it's just starting at the top on a clock and going clockwise. So with the top, we don't need any padding there. I think we just need it on the bottom, so we might add like 50 pixels. Yeah, adding 50, yeah. So it gives us that space we want in between the elements here. And The only thing I'm seeing we need to mess with on the image is some padding. Yeah, we'll do that. Padding to the right. And so that's going to be like maybe like 20 pixels. Yeah, that pushes it away. All right, so let's look back at our design so you guys can see. We need to add this color at the top and bring this margin up a little bit on this element, give it a negative margin. And I think that gets us really close. Maybe one more thing. Yeah, let's go ahead and go to this bottom, and we will center all of the text inside of the footer element. So text, align, center. How does that do for us? Great. So that's centered. Let's give this top header element some color. So header needs a background color. And it's got this blue color, and I'm going to show you a tool in Chrome you could use. It's called Web Developer. And this extension I have, you could click on Display Color, and then I can click it, and it's going to grab this color for me. And that's it. Pretty cool tool. So they will just use a color picker to select the color I'm trying to grab, and that will do the trick. So I have added my hexadecimal color, something very specific instead of just typing in teal or green. We can use that. And then for the header, we need a little bit of space. Also white text, so let's go and do color again. So color for the text is going to be white. The hexadecimal color for that is FFF. You can do it either way. It does look like let's see. Yeah, the font here is a serif font, and this is a sans serif font that we're using here. So yeah, serif font here with all the little tails on everything, and then we will remove them in the body. So let's do font family. It's really not going to finish that for me, is it? Family and Helvetica, I think is what I used, and sans. You can already see it change. Serif. And so what this is saying is, let's use Helvetica first. If Helvetica isn't existing on this computer or it hasn't been imported, then let's use a sans serif font that's on the computer. So that's pretty cool. And I think that does what we want it to. Let's go and give this a font size of 16 pixels. And I think the H1 looks a little bigger. Yeah, much bigger. And yeah, the H2s look bigger too. So let's change those up a little bit. So let's do something like 3M on the font size. We'll do this something really similar to H2. We'll do half of that, so 1.5. Yep, that looks good. And then yeah, let's just clean this up a little bit in the header. And so the header needs a little bit of margin to separate the elements around it. And so we'll add in some margin, maybe like 20 pixels on the top and bottom. And that's another thing you can see here is on padding. I've already done it once, it looks like. On padding and margin, when you're separating those elements like this, if you don't use, okay, so these two are referencing top and bottom, left and right. And if I declare them, I would do this. And then that means the exact same thing as this. It's pretty cool. If there is a middle element, I could do 20 pixels. This also means the same thing as this, because this middle element repeats as 0. In this case, they both repeat, so I can just define top and bottom and leave left and right 0. So let's move on to padding. And we need a little bit of space. Let's see how this turns out. Maybe this one's a little weird, I think. So let's do like 5 pixels on the top. There's already a lot of space there. Maybe we don't need it. Maybe 20 pixels. Oh, messed up. 20 pixels on the right and left. If we did maybe 30 pixels on the bottom, because there's a lot of, yeah, so it looks even on the top and bottom, and then we've added a little bit of padding on the left. So from here, we just need to get this header paragraph, and we'll do a margin of, let's do like a negative, I don't know, like negative 32 maybe? Boom. Okay, yeah, that finishes up this example of using CSS, and I hope it was helpful. So the next example I really urge you to try is Crash Course Pen 2. I'll link it in this video as well. If you want to go back to the original video where I give you the crash course, it's in the description. So hope you enjoyed. Adios.